So I'm Nathaniel Kenworthy. I'm from Perth in Western Australia. I started playing tennis when I was 5 years old. Just my family had always played tennis, and so it made sense for me to start playing it. So obviously, because tennis is the ball is quite small and light, it's pretty sensitive to different surfaces. So in Australia we find that, where I grew up, I played a lot on pretty badly maintained grass courts, and often in Perth is one of the most consistently windy places in the world. So it's pretty, in the summer the sea breeze comes in and you're just playing on really oddly uneven surfaced grass courts in the wind. So it's really nice to come to play on indoor hard courts where it's like you get the same bounce every time, similar speed. It's like really nice transition, but also as a developing player it's been good to have that in my background because you get used to dealing with unexpected bounces, and the frustration of that in competition became quite an advantage, especially with visiting players to those surfaces. So I first found out about Principia through different contacts I had who travelled to Australia and I met with. And then towards the time when I applied to Principia and came here, it really was the tennis coach and the tennis program that attracted me to the school. Rusty Jones is a very well qualified and coach and great person. Really looks after his players, and it just seemed like a good idea to come here into that program. Also very different, like in a team sports style. In Australia, like generally you're playing on a team, but there's not really the same sort of team ethic that there is here in a college program. And particularly at Principia, I think they emphasise that, and that brings a lot more kind of meaning to the competition as a team sport, rather than as like a completely individual pursuit. So I found that while I really love Australian culture and its kind of laid back, relaxed way of approaching things, I did find that coming here into a college program, it's much more rigorous and really intensive. Also probably has to do with the fact that I wasn't playing really elite level sport in Australia, which definitely has rigorous programs, but the general ethic, work ethic here and the approach to doing things, even in a Division III context, is like quite professional, which I really enjoy. It makes you feel like you're part of something really worthwhile putting a lot into, and you do really get a lot out of it, not just athletically, but I would say even more so, particularly with sport like tennis. You get kind of mental discipline and an ability to sort of temper yourself like in a more mature way than you would if you weren't playing sport. I find that it's really beneficial to be able to just approach difficult situations in a much more even-minded manner than I would if I hadn't played competition tennis here in the US. So at the end of my first season here, in the spring of 2016, we played Greenville College for the conference title, and I was playing Code Power from Greenville, and the competition that I had with him I just found to be really quite special, like nothing I'd experienced previously in Australia or even in other competition here. Just a really good sport, and I found actually towards the conclusion of our match, which actually never finished because the final finished before our match did, I experienced quite severe cramps, and he went to go and get Powerade for me and gave me food, and I just found that like I just gave so much meaning to the match, and at the end, like just had so much respect for him and felt reciprocal respect. Because we played a previous match earlier in the season, and yeah, that really meant a lot to me, and I think encapsulates what good tennis really is about, which is about sort of good competition is really about seeing the ability and drawing out the best in your opponent, and I found that match really emphasised that for me, and was in both directions, so yeah. So I found that while NCAA sport is like a really big time commitment, about 15 to sometimes 18 hours a week if you're travelling, it's really worth the time, and rarely actually is a detriment to your ability to do academic work. I find that the afternoon practice, that discipline, actually gives me a lot more mental freedom. It just makes you feel good, it takes your mind off challenging things, and when you come back to work you can approach things with a fresh sort of mindset. And again, like, it just trains you in sort of mental discipline that helps you approach other academic challenges, and particularly just like the enjoyment of it, and just hanging out with people that you really enjoy hanging out with and playing sport with them is just such a good experience. Like, it's one of the best parts of college. I wouldn't really change that just to get a few slightly higher grades, and I don't think I would. I think overall it is a benefit to my academic study. Well, as an international student, it'd be pretty nice to be able to, if I could have any superpower, it'd be pretty nice to be able to just apparate like in Harry Potter, just appear and disappear at will between international locations. Yeah, I would definitely say that the food that Americans really do a lot better than Australians are donuts. Donuts here are like really next level compared to the dry cinnamon sugar crunch of an Australian inferior donut. An inferior Australian donut. Can I want to say it again? So I'm really interested in sustainable food production, and I would really, really love to start a business around a sort of farm-to-table concept, probably initially working in the production of food and then moving towards having a cafe restaurant outlet to serve that food. I really enjoy cooking and I love being outside, and I think that the economy around food in all of the Western world really needs to be reformed to a much more sustainable model, because it can't continue in the way that it is in its current state.